Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Udon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi. Sister?
Yes, Father. What are we going to discuss today?
We have been continuing trying to disentangle the confusion that is going on in the world today. Everybody has been complaining that there is so much confusion, and this has been described by St. Paul. In the sense he mentioned that if the bishops sound their horns and it's the wrong tune,
Oh, yes.
it has to be either advance or retreat,
Yes.
But if the tune is not clear, then the people will be
Yes.
confused. And that's precisely what is happening today, because each bishop and each priest, most of the time, have their own tune. And it's a tune we cannot understand, that the faithful cannot understand, so they do not know what to believe. To go to heaven, you have to have what you call perfect faith. And perfect faith means that all your belief must be correct. All your beliefs. Now, to go to heaven, it's not enough to have faith. You must have charity. In other words, what you believe, you have to put into practice. That is charity. What you believe, you have to put into practice. So if there is something wrong in what you believe, then there will be something wrong in the practice in your life. And so you will not enter heaven.
But who can teach us the right thing to have a real faith?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to promote in this program. We're trying to teach people how to have the right faith, because it was never taught in the right way in the seminaries and in the theological schools. But before we can teach them, we have to disentangle the confusion and try to find out where things went wrong.
Yes.
And we mentioned the fact that the confusion is because those who are supposed to teach are not teaching the right things. And in fact, those who are supposed to teach are teaching the wrong things.
That's terrible, Father. We will be misled.
Well, that's the whole idea. We become blind leaders for the blind. So that is one of the reasons why there is a confusion, because nobody is teaching the right thing anymore. In other words, we do not have the right kind of preachers these days, as described by St. Matthew in the last chapter of his Gospel. Those are the good preachers. And we have discussed also what is a good preacher, one who is sent by God.
Yes.
Not a person who have been sending himself, or sent by a mere bishop, or sent by a priest, or so on. It has to be a person sent by God, and that's what was written in scriptures. So, since we do not have these good preachers who are truly sent by God, we are faced with the problem that when we hear errors, nobody is telling us what is the right thing to believe. In other words, the confusion is not being resolved when there is a confusion.
Yes.
Because when there is a confusion, the preacher is supposed to resolve it or disentangle the confusion. And that's supposed to be the job of the priest, the bishop, and the pope. But we have come to a point where it is the pope, the bishops, and the priests, not all of them, but most of them, are confusing the faithful. And the last thing we discussed, what was the research made by Monsignor Bux.
That's it.
Bux. And he's a very reliable theologian because he's working in the Holy See, in the Vatican, former an advisor to the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith under Pope Benedict, and now he is part of the Congregation for the Causes for the Saints. So he's not a ordinary person. He is a theologian who really is examining many important things in the Catholic Church. And he presented the idea that something wrong went during the last conclave that elected Pope Francis. How do we know there is something wrong? Because there are rules in the conclave.
Yes, Father.
Very strict rules. And it is a fact that if one violates the rule of the conclave, it can invalidate the election of the person elected during the conclave.
Yes, Father.
That's how serious it is. No? And so there is a document, there are plenty of documents really, no? But there was a document made by John Paul II, wherein he forbade campaigning for any of the candidates.
Just like politicians.
Yeah, just like politicians, yeah. Now, the idea behind it, it is supposed to be the Holy Spirit who's supposed to choose the Pope.
Yes, Father.
And the cardinals are supposed to elect the person whom they think is in accordance with the will of the Holy Spirit. So they're supposed to be dictated by the Holy Spirit. So Pope John Paul II forbade all campaigning. But this Monsignor Bux proved that the rules made by John Paul II was violated, because there was a group which they call the St. Gallen group, and he mentions the names of the people involved who actually campaigned for Cardinal Bergoglio. It was at the beginning led by Cardinal Martini, the Bishop of Milan, Jesuit, who wanted to change the Catholic Church. Now, he was a Jesuit, and you know the Jesuits have this tendency of changing things which seems to be irrelevant. They start changing it if they find it irrelevant. But as Gilbert Chesterton says, before you eliminate something, you have to prove that it is irrelevant before you eliminate it.
Yes, Father.
And then you have to prove that what you're going to substitute is better than what you are removing. That's the process of sound philosophy. So that is what happened. Cardinal Martini wanted to change the church because he found so many things which he could not understand.
And that's why he wanted to change it, because he doesn't understand.
He did not see the fact that the defect was that he did not understand. Just because you did not understand certain doctrines doesn't mean that it is irrelevant.
Yes, Father.
So he wanted to change many things. And there was a group who followed him, and this is what you call the St. Gallen group. And they tried to have Martini elected, but it did not work. Because Joseph Ratzinger was the one elected.
That was even the previous, okay.
Yeah. So they waited for the next election, and they found the seeming resignation of Pope Benedict as an occasion to again try to put their agenda into the conclave. And so they met, and they campaigned. And of course, Bergoglio won. And because the procedure was against the directives of Pope John Paul II, Monsignor Bux says it's invalid.
Yes, but it follows.
It makes really sense that it's invalid. And so he says if he's not the Pope because his election was invalid, then Pope Benedict is still the Pope.
Yes, Father.
Necessarily because he's still
alive also.
Still alive, yeah. Now that's very confusing. Suddenly, Monsignor Bux is trying to tell us that there are two popes. And both of them are in the Vatican, both of them are wearing white, both of them are addressed Your Holiness, and both of them are in St. Peter's Basilica. And so who is the Pope? And nobody's clarifying it.
But who will clarify, Father? Who is the right group or the right person to clarify such situation?
Well, the Pope and the bishops and the priests are supposed to clarify that.
But they are not clarifying it?
No, they're not clarifying it, and they're even adding to the confusion. Because if you ask some bishops, and we really have asked them, who is the Pope? Is it Pope Benedict or Pope Francis? And they would simply say, oh, it's Pope Francis, without giving any reason for their stand. Now, if Pope Francis has been elected invalidly, he's not the Pope.
Yeah, definitely, Father.
And any bishop or any priest who sides with him would be considered a schismatic or a heretic. And many of our bishops, many bishops in the world, and many bishops in the Philippines believe that Pope Francis is the Pope, without, of course, defending such a stand, in which case they are siding with somebody who could be the wrong Pope, an invalid Pope, in which case they would be part of the schism that's taking place in the Catholic Church now, or part of a heretical group.
Well, that's the great schism. That's the great confusion we have now.
Yeah, it is a very great confusion. And like we said, nobody's clarifying it. Everybody's even aggravating the confusion.
Pope Benedict XVI doesn't have any right to clarify a situation.
Yeah, that's a very, very big question that people are asking. How come Pope Benedict doesn't speak out
Yes.
and clarify it? Because he knows what is going on. He knows what is the right stand, what is the truth. How come he is not speaking?
So,
And the answer is because he feels that the world has been divided into two. Those who have faith and those without faith, which has been described and prophesied in scriptures, that these will be the days where there will be a decay of faith and the waxing cold of charity.
So that is the kind of situation that can have now, seemingly pointing out to those people who doesn't have faith and those people who have faith.
Yeah, in other words, if you have faith, you would know who is a true Pope.
Yes.
You would know which is the true religion, who is the true God. You would know exactly what is the true church if you have faith. If you do not have faith, no amount of convincing can convince you.
What I don't understand, Father, is that they have violated the system or the manner of selecting the Pope, which means that is invalid whoever based their vote on wrong procedure.
Yeah, that's the reason why we have to read the news going on in the Catholic Church today. Because if you have faith, if you read an article like that, your faith is going to clarify the issue. It is going to resolve the confusion. Your own faith will resolve it. Because faith is a theological virtue.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a guide for your soul, which is very certain.
Finding out the truth is for our own good, for our own faith.
Yeah.
the faith comes first, right? You have to have the
Yeah,
faith.
of
Then you will
course,
know the truth, right?
You should first have perfect repentance, of course before you
Father,
can
yes.
have perfect faith. And then with perfect faith comes what St. Thomas of Aquino says, the infused theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity.
Yes.
This is infused. You cannot learn faith from seminaries or theological school. It is a gift from God. It's infused.
That's it.
And it comes immediately. It is not something that takes time to develop this knowledge and wisdom. So the moment you have faith, you would know who is a true Pope.
Sorry, Father, we have only 30 seconds, please.
And a very good example of this is during the time of Catherine of Siena, where there were 3 popes. How come the bishops and the priests and many Catholics during that time did not know which of the 3
Is the real Pope?
was the real Pope? Yeah.
Oh my God.
But St. Catherine of Siena knew. She was not even a nun. She was just a layman, a laywoman, who was a tertiary member of the Dominican. But she had a great faith. So she knew exactly who was a true Pope, which was a true religion, which is the Catholic Church, and so forth and so on.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you very much for watching Spiritual Dialogues with Father Rodon de Castro. So what we have learned today is to have that kind of faith, that true faith that is infused by the Divine Spirit, so that we will understand, and we need that at present. Please continue watching Dialogues with Father Rodon de Castro. Thank you very much.
Hosanna, Hosanna.